And the next point that might be interesting also for company and that might make their life easier or not, we still don't know, is the corporate social responsibility system. So that is that is a point of the debate, of course, for everybody, because we are still not 100% sure what will come out of it or how will it be like put in action. But there are voices that say that law inside China is sometimes hard to grasp, especially for European companies, because it's so flexible and up to interpretation so far. So will this system mean a heavy reliance on Chinese lawyers? Are companies being lost in Chinese law, or how would you interpret this system?
I think that let me tell you some history. If it's too boring, then tell me.
No, by all means. I think it's fascinating.
Every year at Tsinghua University in Beijing, we have this conference with corporate lawyers. And they're scholars and some practitioners, but mostly scholars. But also practitioners, like one of the frequent visitors is a judge in the Chinese Supreme Court. And, you know, so people like that, they also visit, and somebody from a lawmaker from the ministry also visits. And then we are with 70 or 80 scholars. And it's in the weekend, of course, because it's in China. And if you have a conference in China, it's Saturday and Sunday. It's not like in the West. It's not, you know, in your working time. And we have to work very hard. We start at 8 in the morning, and we only have 30 minutes break for lunch. And then we eat. We eat just in a gezondheid. We eat just in a college room, and you know, it's all very, very simple life. But the quality of the speeches and the attendance is I think very high. So this guy from Harvard will fly in, and people from Singapore University, and it's really something. So in that setting, in that conference, we've been talking about what would be a good model for Chinese companies, and then. And it's not that this was decisive for corporate social responsibility or anything, but in these discussions, every year again, I brought up that in Holland and in Germany, we have this stakeholder model. And that in our part of the world, that we don't look at a company as just a machine for making money, but that the company has its own responsibility. And that there's a responsibility for the workers, there's a responsibility for the creditors, there's also a responsibility for the shareholders, but it's a mixed package, and that the board of the company has to make a balance between the various ingredients. And the Chinese were very interested in this because the Chinese participants. And the American participants thought it was a very stupid idea, because they thought that a business is for making money, full stop. And so we discussed this. And then I often banged my head with the guys from Australia and US, and you know, but that's also, you know, this with the stakeholders is not, you can say it's a very complicated Chinese thing, but you can also say this is deeply rooted into Western European culture, and then especially a country like Germany that's been admired for its efficiency in business and in setting up companies. It's a great example.
Yeah. Okay.
So maybe before we all get too confused about the Chinese legislation, it's also good to reflect, like, okay, but maybe it's just a signal that businesses are not just money machines for a happy few, but that they bear a responsibility also for workers and for the community, etc.
Other studies also like guessed or discussed whether the system would not actually be really useful for European companies to for example, do a background check on their supply chains or other things, like if it doesn't actually make it more transparent. I think the only point is that yeah, the fear that Chinese law is not so clear, so oftentimes you're not even sure if you're doing things right or not. And now with a rigorous tracing of every like action or transaction, there is the fear that you will have to lawyer your way out of every misunderstanding. I think that's a bit the main concern from the corporate side.
And it's a valid concern, because if commercial lawyers get the upper hand in directing the officials where to go, then this will happen, of course.
Okay.
Because the system can be used to create a lawyer's paradise.
That's exactly.
Even if it's not meant for that, but it can be if it's not stopped. If you leave it up to the legal market, so to say, then that will happen. And of course they will, the more commercial lawyers will advise their clients, you have to take care of this, we have to produce this document, you cannot do it by yourself, etc.
Yeah. But as far as I remember, in the Silk Road event, you said that so far Chinese law was more like born from the understanding to create fairness and to like level out exactly these things. It's not the approach that the US has of like trying to make money out of every law case, but rather trying to smoothen things. So at the moment, if I understand you correctly, it's not very clear in which direction it goes eventually. Both potentials are there. We can just hope.
Yes, I think the old guard, like the judges and the officials, they and it's also very Chinese, of course, not to have the conflict and to ease the conflict out. But maybe a younger generation will be more aggressive, or will be schooled in the US and will come back to China with American ideas. And that could change things, of course. We don't know which direction that will go. But in like the people that I work with in university, or the scholars or the judges, I think they would be more inclined to solve the crisis and not to pick a winner and a loser.
So from your perspective, also having worked in China, and you think that the system, or at least it looks at the moment, it looks as if the system is created to create more transparency and to reflect the responsibility that a company has vis-a-vis their employers and suppliers and so on, not the opposite.
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's hopeful. That's promising. Let's see how it will be implemented.
Let's see. You never know, but it's an educated guess. Yeah.
Do you have an educated guess as to whether when the whole system will be like put into action? What is maybe you have behind the scenes information?
I think that right now everybody's gearing up for more international business, and I think in the next few months it will become more clear, like how this will go and how this will indeed affect the businesses.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.